A Federal Way council member is under fire after her comments about vaccines on social media. The Federal Way Mirror reports that Erica Norton, who joined the council in November, posted comments on her public Facebook account, including this one. She writes, 3 years from now, all the believers will be dead or permanently disabled. She also calls Washington an open-air prison. At one point, she writes that vaccinated Americans can, quote, keep getting the clot shots, die off, and let the rest of us move on with our lives, end quote. Now, there is no evidence that COVID vaccines cause death or disability, and neither the Pfizer nor Moderna vaccines have been linked to blood clots. According to county data, though, around 77% of people in Federal Way's population are vaccinated.
Okay, then, let's switch gears and talk about the weather. Look outside.
But first, we're uncovering new information on the COVID front tonight. We're learning about the United States and when it could hit a death toll of 1 million people. They say that's in April.
And also new tonight, all the recent cold weather could affect the outcome of at-home COVID tests. Good evening. I'm Hannah Kim.
And I'm Matthew Smith. Thank you so much for joining us for Fox 13 News at 6.
So let's get right to that warning tonight about those COVID tests the government has been sending out. With most Americans facing cold fronts and winter storms, there is concern that the tests might not work. Most at-home COVID-19 test brands recommend storing the tests above 35 degrees. Now, the liquid substance inside the cartridge is susceptible to freezing, and if that happens, the accuracy of the results can decrease. Experts recommend bringing your tests inside as soon as they are delivered. If a test is left in a mailbox overnight during freezing temperatures, it is advised that you get another test. The U.S. Postal Service is currently delivering 1 billion at-home test kits provided by the federal government. And also, we've been telling you about how the pandemic has only worsened the situation when it comes to blood donations, leading to a national crisis.
Fox 13's Dan Griffin is in Tacoma, where people donated their time and their blood, hoping to make a difference.
Well, the pastor here at Shiloh Baptist Church said when he heard there was a national blood shortage, he wanted to help. Well, so did many others.
They're at the critical stage, and this is the first time in history that they've been critically low on the blood.
It's another shortage only made worse by COVID-19. Will Willis with the American Red Cross says the situation is dire with less than a one-day supply of critical blood types recently. The call to action caught Pastor Gregory Christopher's attention. He stepped right up, opening the doors to Shiloh Baptist Church in Tacoma this weekend.
That was like a good thing to do. You know, we're a church. We're supposed to be helping the community. You know, and so I said, hey, no problem.
The Red Cross says there's been a 10% drop in blood donations since March 2020 and a 62% drop in college and high school blood drives due to the pandemic. Willis says volunteers from the Divine Nine Greek organizations from traditionally black colleges stepped up to help. Desmond Boyd is one of those volunteers.
Anything that we can do as a community, as a fraternity to help, I just want to come here and give blood, on my behalf. And on the fraternity behalf as well.
The Red Cross, which supplies 40% of our country's blood, says doctors are being forced to make tough calls about how blood is used, and the organization has had to limit distributions to hospitals.
And what we've been doing traditionally is looking for the O positive or the black and brown blood, because we're using that for the folks who have sickle cell anemia.
Each person here hopes to help ease the strain for people in Washington and across the country.
They're able to give blood, and please give blood. It helps someone later on down the road, or may help yourself later down the road. Yeah.
Now, if you'd like to donate blood, the American Red Cross organizers say they have an online calendar that will show you where there are events in your neighborhood. We'll have a link to that online at fox13seattle.com. For now, reporting in Tacoma, Dan Griffin, Fox 13 News.
Thank you, Dan. It is a grim milestone. The number of COVID-related deaths in the U.S. has passed 900,000.
And if Omicron cases continue at the current rate, the U.S. would surpass 1 million deaths by April. Fox's Charles Watson has new warnings from health experts.
Another grim milestone in the fight against COVID-19 as the death toll from the virus surpasses 900,000 Americans. The stunning statistic accelerated by the rapid spread of the Omicron variant, with more than 100,000 deaths coming in just the last 2 months. COVID, now the third leading cause of death behind heart disease and cancer. Despite those figures, public health experts hope the worst is already behind us and the U.S. could enter a new phase of the pandemic in 2022.
COVID-19 is circulating year-round right now. I think eventually it will become a wintertime disease. I think we need more testing capacity. I think we're going to continue to need to be vaccinating people well into the future.
The U.S. is now more than a year into its vaccination push, with policymakers running out of ideas on how to convince people still on the fence about getting a shot. According to CDC data, about 64% of Americans are fully vaccinated. Just over a quarter have gotten a booster shot. Fortunately, the latest wave from Omicron appears to be on the way out. Cases and hospitalizations are declining in 49 states, though deaths are still at their highest point since the Delta surge.
The COVID crisis has been cut in half, down in half in just 3 weeks. Still too many cases. Still we have to be on the alert. But to be clear, this is a dramatic decline.
The U.S. continues to lead the world in confirmed cases and deaths. 1 out of 5 Americans have been infected with the virus at some point. In Atlanta, Charles Watson, Fox News.
A Federal Way Council member is under fire after her comments about vaccines on social media. The Federal Way Mirror reports that Erica Norton, who joined the council in November, posted comments on her public Facebook account, including this one. She writes, 3 years from now, all the believers will be dead or permanently disabled. She also calls Washington an open-air prison. At one point, she writes that vaccinated Americans can, quote, keep getting the clot shots, die off, and let the rest of us move on with our lives, end quote. Now, there is no evidence that COVID vaccines cause death or disability, and neither the Pfizer nor Moderna vaccines have been linked to blood clots. According to county data, though, around 77% of people in Federal Way's population are vaccinated.
Okay, then, let's switch gears and talk about the weather. Look outside.
A Federal Way Council member is under fire after her comments about vaccines on social media. The Federal Way Mirror reports that Erica Norton, who joined the council in November, posted comments on her public Facebook account, including this one. She writes, 3 years from now, all the believers will be dead or permanently disabled. She also calls Washington an open-air prison. At one point, she writes that vaccinated Americans can, quote, keep getting the clot shots, die off, and let the rest of us move on with our lives, end quote. Now, there is no evidence that COVID vaccines cause death or disability, and neither the Pfizer nor Moderna vaccines have been linked to blood clots. According to county data, though, around 77% of people in Federal Way's population are vaccinated.
Okay, then, let's switch gears and talk about the weather. Look outside and talk about the weather. Look at and talk about the weather and talk about the weather.